This was a a sign that I had been accepted by this clan in Illinois. This was a BFRO expedition I led in 2019. And I had 4 people and my partner, Harold. And it was before COVID. The person who was going to do this expedition canceled at the last minute. BFRO guy had a family problem or got sick or something. He couldn't do it. So they canceled, except for these 4 people. They said, we want to go. We paid our money. We don't want our money back. We want to go. Find somebody. Please, please, we beg you. We want to go. We love this. So they put out an APB. I answered, well, what the heck? I haven't done one in Illinois. I get to see my buddy Harold. So I went and did it. So there was 4 of us. We had 2 nights, Friday and Saturday, awesome activity, a lot of footprints, a lot of arches, a lot of trees pushed over. When we found these 4 or 5 really good footprints, they pushed over small saplings covering the footprints so we couldn't find them again. Because we already cast them. I left them in the mud overnight so they get good and hard and cured. And so, but the next morning we went out to retrieve them, and they pushed trees over on top of each one. I don't want you taking our footprints. This is my stuff. Well, no, I'm taking the footprints because they're not even mine. They belong to the people who want to go on the expedition. Anyway,
was your plaster still in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were saplings. I mean, they were like, they didn't even weigh as much as a Christmas tree. You know, they just pushed a sapling over to hide it. Anyway, so we had no interaction. We had sticks and little rocks thrown at us, and we could hear them watching us. This gully we were in, where this tree log is, was about 25 feet below the regular topography. And so they were up on either side of these, this hill looking down at us, kind of unnerving at, 1 o'clock in the morning and you're in pitch dark and, these giant beings are standing above you looking at you, but they just would not interact. It was just kind of odd. There's a story behind all that, but that's a whole other story. So anyway, we had a great expedition. And so the next year, 2020, I called Harold. I said, COVID's in full swing now. We can't do much, but I want to come down there. And I just drove literally to 325 miles away in Murfreesboro, Missouri, Illinois, to go see if this one area still had the same magic, because it felt really good and vibrant.
That's where the big muddy creature was, Murfreesboro, Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, there's another reason this area was taboo to everybody in town. When I went there in 2019 was scouting, I said, where's a really good place to look for Sasquatch? Well, I'll tell you where you don't want to go, and that's down here by the water plant, because there's something going on in those woods. Anybody near here will go anywhere near there at night. Not the baddest hunter in town. They won't go there at night. Something's weird, spooks everybody. Well, that's where I want to go. And that's where we went. So anyway, I go back and meet Harold, 2020. We camp at our little remote camping site. We go back and walk over here. Now, Harold has had a stroke and cancer. So he could not make this hike all the way down to the bottom of this ravine and go back up. He just didn't have the physical strength. So he sat in his car the first night, and the second night with the expedition goers, he stayed back at camp, just recuperating because he just couldn't do it. So scoot. And you see at the very other end of the rock of the log.
Yeah.
You see that round rock?
Yeah, this one.
That's him.
Well, that's his representation of a Harold.
That's Harold, because he's kind of short and squat. He was there, but he wasn't there. The 4 rocks are the 4 expedition goers. The bigger pointy rock is me, the expedition leader. Now this, when we went there in 2019, this log is where we stopped both times for the night, Friday and Saturday night. It was just a good stopping point.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't scouted the other area. I usually don't take people on an expedition into an area that I haven't already been, just so I know it's safe. So we didn't go past that. So this is 2020. We went back there, and it still had a good vibe. It had a really good vibe. So I said, Harold, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave a camera here, and we'll go back to camp, and I'm going to get it on the way back home to Kansas City in the morning. And that's what I did when I got here. I'm filming this, and I've taken a picture, and I'm going, what is this? There was nobody here. It's COVID. There's nobody out. And it's October, and we went exactly 1 year to the day of the previous expedition. And so at 5:30, it's dark. And nobody is out there in this area. Nobody goes there in this town area anyway, because it's a creepy area. Nobody likes it. I'll tell you why in a minute. So, but we were there till about 2:00 in the afternoon. So if somebody did come through, they would have had to come through in about a 3-hour window to put all these rocks up. And there was just nobody out. And serendipity wise, that is me and the 4 expedition goers. That little short round rock is Harold, who was there but wasn't there. That's all it could have been. They were making contact. I get chills every now and then. I start getting teary-eyed when I talk about this, because it's such a seminal moment in my life. So
yeah,
I'm looking at this going, oh my God. I call Harold. He's freaking out. He's back at camp. I said, well, no, you can't come down here anyway, because you won't make it. So I'm getting pictures. I called my wife, and I was freaking out. And she goes, well, what time did that happen? I said, well, I don't know. It had to have been after like 6:00 at night, because it gets dark, and we were here till 2, and there's just nobody out. Nobody comes to this area anyway, because it's haunted. So I said, why? She goes, well, 8:30 last night, I'm getting ready for bed, and this blue orb comes flying into our bedroom, about the size of a golf ball. It makes all the passes in our bedroom. She not only sees it physically, like she sees it, it's there, but it's also reflecting in the mirror in our dresser. So she knows it's a real thing. It's not a reflection from a car's passing the way our house sits. That's not a possibility. Sasquatch were letting me and her know that they know where I live. I'm one of the cool kids.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? They were communicating that we know who you are. Those rocks are for me and the 4 expedition goers. The rock on the other side was Harold. And I know that's his rock because I had dusted it for fingerprints, and there was still fingerprint powder on the bottom of it. It was one of the rocks I found when they had covered our footprints with their tree, with their saplings. And I thought, well, maybe there's I knew that rock wasn't there. It was in disturbed dirt. It was in a root ball dirt. I thought, well, maybe there's a fingerprint on here. And there was none. But a year later, they're using that same rock to signify.
That's crazy. Was it his fingerprint or the Bigfoot fingerprint?
There's no fingerprint. I was dusting to see if there was.
Oh, I see what you mean now. It's the same one.
Powder. There was still, it was the same rock because there was still powder underneath it. Now it's been exposed to the element for a year, so of course it's rained and stuff on it. But there was just enough black fingerprint powder, because I carry a DNA kit with me at all times. I have a DNA kit. I can take blood, scat, fingerprints. I got a kit for all that stuff. And so on the bottom of it was just enough fingerprint powder for me to go, yes. Now, if that doesn't tell you something, and I literally, up until recently, but this may be the first time I've ever told this story without getting teary-eyed. because it's such an emotional thing that, you know, all the things I've done, all the places I've been, all the people I've met, this was a shoulder tap. Like, hey, pal, got you.
It's like a double whammy with the fingerprint powder. Same rock.
Yeah. And here's the deal. This is the Trail of Tears. Nobody goes to this area because 94 Native Americans froze to death and were buried all through this area up on top. And several years before we got there, a tremendous rainstorm had come through and washed down this gully and exposed several graves. And that was why nobody goes down there ever again, because that has bad juju.
That explains the activity too.
Yeah. The Sasquatch know it's there.
Mm-hmm.
They have no problems with it because, you know, they've had a symbiotic relationship with Native Americans for tens of thousands of years.